Hello everyone. In this video, I am briefly going to go over one of the answers to the Orwell assignment. Question 2 asks you to take Orwell's ideas about politics in the English language, the way in which language can pervert thought or corrupt it, and apply it to the play Othello, particularly Acts 1, Scenes 1 and 2. In this play, I've already said that Iago serves as a kind of contagion or a cancer. His language functions in much the same way. Iago is a masterful manipulator, not simply because he is able to use his explicit, direct speech in order to persuade other characters to act in a way that he desires. Instead, his true strength is the ability to use his language to present concepts and ideas to characters, impregnating their minds with his perception of the world, and convincing them to act in such a way as to make them believe that they are choosing to do something, when in reality, they're only acting as his puppets. Iago lays the seeds. He plants the seeds of his plans, his language, his ideas, his conceptual framework for the world inside other characters' minds. In so doing, he preconditions them to respond to stimuli, to events that occur in the play, in a way that Iago desires. Take, for example, the way in which he plants the kind of language of animality and magic inside the minds of Brabantio and Rodrigo in Act 1, Scene 1. Brabantio is introduced to the racial question and the idea of magic when Iago refers to Othello as both an animal, that old black ram, and as a devil. The devil will make a grandsire of you, he says. So Iago has primed Brabantio's mind. He's given him the framework, the language, the kinds of ideas and concepts that he can apply to Othello and the situation in which he finds himself. And in the next scene, we see Brabantio using that language that Iago has given him, taking up the language, taking up the concepts and the ideas that Iago has planted in his mind in order to engage with Othello, when he accuses Othello of using some kind of drug or magic, a magic spell, to take control of Desdemona's mind and bend her to his will. This is Iago's true power, his ability to perceive characters' weaknesses, adapt and modify his language accordingly, and then plant ideas or plant language in their minds. Iago is constantly morphing and changing, adopting different identities, different masks or visages to suit his particular ends. And he does this, or he makes these changes, in response to the perceived weaknesses of other characters. When he sees that a particular attack is failing, he adapts. Think about what he does with Brabantio and Othello. He goes to Brabantio and incites him to anger by suggesting that Desdemona has been stolen from him. Because that has been successful, he goes to Othello and tries the same thing. Brabantio is going to come, Othello, and take your wife from you. But with Othello, it fails because Othello is a fundamentally different man. Iago, however, does not allow this to stop him. He still continues probing Othello's defenses, trying to find that weakness that he can use to begin planting new concepts or planting ways of perceiving the world inside Othello's mind in order to dictate how he will respond. Iago doesn't need to orchestrate events directly. Instead, he conditions the way in which other characters will respond to the events. He plants the framework for perceiving and conceiving of the world in their minds so that he knows that they will react in a certain way. This adaptability, this cunning means of engaging with other characters and controlling them by making them think they're making choices, making them think that they're doing something of their own volition, of their own free will, is the true strength at the heart of Iago's character. As Orwell says, if thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thought. A bad usage can spread by tradition and imitation, even among people who should and do know better. This play is a protracted illustration of Iago's ability to, spread bad usages of language, to impregnate other characters with his perception of the world, his thoughts, and to spread his reductive visions of the world, his stereotypes about women, his stereotypes about Othello, Moors, and black people, even among people who can and should know better. As we think about Act 3, consider the way in which Iago has succeeded or has begun to succeed in doing exactly that with a man who is least susceptible to his earlier attempts at manipulation, Othello. In Act 1, Scene 2, Othello proved utterly resolute against Iago's attempts to manipulate him using the threat that Desdemona would be stolen from him. Consider the way in which Iago is modifying, adapting his techniques to affect Othello in Act 3.